The massive space station hung like a jewel against the darkness. Its spiraling arms stretched outward, housing representatives from over 200 alien species. This was the center of galactic politics, the Grand Council Station, where the fate of civilizations was decided daily. Captain Alan Brooks stood alone in his quarters, straightening his blue uniform one final time. Earth had discovered faster-than-light travel only 15 years ago. Now he would be the first human to address the Galactic Council formally. The weight of 7 billion lives rested on his shoulders. "Captain, they're ready for you," said a soft voice through the communication system. Alan took a deep breath. He had trained for this moment for 3 years. On my way. The corridors of the station were filled with beings of all shapes and sizes. Some floated in special tanks, others crawled along the walls. Many walked on 2 legs like humans, though their skin colors ranged from deep purple to glowing green. Alan received curious stares as he passed. 2 tall guards met him at the council chamber entrance. They had 4 arms each and skin that looked like polished metal. "Human representative," one said, the translation device on Alan's collar converting the clicks and whistles into English. "You will approach when called, speak only when addressed, and keep your hands visible at all times." Alan nodded. The massive doors slid open silently, revealing a chamber larger than a football stadium. Thousands of seats rose in circles around a central platform. Most were filled with beings from across the galaxy. Soft lights floated in the air, casting a gentle glow over everything. "Captain Alan Brooks of Earth," announced a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Alan walked forward, his footsteps echoing. He stopped at the center of the platform, where a single beam of light shone down. Looking up, he could see the council elders on a high platform. There were 7 of them, each from one of the oldest species in the galaxy. The tallest elder leaned forward. She had pale blue skin that seemed almost transparent and eyes larger than human hands. "You claim to be from Earth?" she asked, her voice gentle but powerful. "Yes, Elder, I represent the United Earth government," Alan replied. Keeping his voice steady, murmurs spread through the chamber. The elder raised a long-fingered hand for silence. "Our records indicate that planet is classified as a Class X death." "World," she said. "Are you certain of your origins?" Alan blinked in confusion. "Yes, Elder. Earth is our homeworld." A second elder, who resembled a large octopus floating in a special suit, moved forward. "Impossible. No intelligent species could evolve on such a hostile environment." "I don't understand," Alan said carefully. "Earth is perfectly habitable for us." The third elder, who had scales and a long snout, pulled up a holographic display. "Planet Earth, gravity at 9.8 meters per second squared, crushing for most sentient life. Atmosphere contains highly reactive oxygen. Temperature variations from -50 to +50 degrees Celsius. Over 10,000 species of microorganisms that cause disease. Constant radiation from its sun, regular geological disasters. Extreme weather patterns, numerous predatory species." Alan listened with growing surprise. He had never thought of Earth as dangerous. "It was just home, yet here I stand," he said simply. "Humans have lived on Earth for hundreds of thousands of years." The chamber erupted in whispers and clicks and hums as the aliens discussed this information. Alan stood straight, feeling like a specimen under a microscope. The first elder raised her hand again. "If what you say is true, then humans must possess remarkable ... resilience." "We're just ordinary people," Alan said. "We've adapted to our world, as I'm sure all species adapt to theirs." A fourth elder, whose body glowed with soft internal light, spoke. "Tell us, Captain Brooks, how do humans survive the microorganisms you share your planet with?" "We have immune systems that fight off most infections," Alan explained. "And we've developed medicines for serious diseases." "And the predators?" asked the scaled elder. "Most large predators avoid humans now. We've become the dominant species." "The radiation from your sun?" asked another. "Our skin produces melanin for protection." "And we use sunscreen," Alan added, realizing how strange that might sound. "What about your planet's weather? The storms?" The floods? The fires? The questions came faster now. We build strong shelters, we have warning systems. We rebuild when necessary, Alan answered, keeping his voice calm despite the increasingly uncomfortable interrogation. The first elder held up a hand, stopping the questions. Captain Brooks, please wait outside while the council discusses this matter. Alan bowed slightly and walked back toward the doors, feeling thousands of alien eyes on his back. Outside in the waiting area, a small green being approached him. She had 2 arms, 2 legs, and looked almost human except for her color and large eyes. "Is it true?" she asked in perfect English. "You really come from Earth?" "Yes," Alan replied. "Why is everyone so surprised by this?" She looked around nervously before answering. "In our educational systems, Earth is used as an example of a planet too hostile for intelligent life to develop. The gravity alone would crush most species in the galaxy. It's just normal to us," Alan said with a shrug. "Normal?" She shook her head in wonder. "Your bones must be like steel compared to mine, and your muscles. To move in such gravity. Before Alan could respond, the doors opened again. The guard with 4 arms gestured for him to return. The chamber was quieter now as Alan resumed his position in the center. The 7 elders looked down at him with new expressions. If Alan had to name them, he would say they looked concerned. "We have reviewed our data on Earth," the first elder said, "and we find ourselves ... troubled." "Troubled?" Alan asked. "A species that evolves on a death world would naturally develop certain ... advantages, physical strength, endurance, resistance to toxins and radiation, adaptability to extreme conditions." She paused. "These are traits that have concerning implications." Alan frowned. "We're peaceful explorers. We seek friendship with other worlds." The scaled elder made a sound like a hiss. "Your history suggests otherwise. Your planet's records show constant warfare among your own kind." "We've moved beyond those times," Alan said firmly. "Earth is united now. We come in peace." The council elders exchanged glances. Finally, the first elder spoke again. "We will need to reevaluate Earth classification and reconsider humanity's place in the galactic community. For now, you may establish a small embassy on this station. But travel between Earth and other worlds will be strictly monitored." It wasn't the warm welcome Alan had hoped for, but it was a start. He bowed again. "Thank you, elders. Earth looks forward to peaceful relations with all species." As he turned to leave, he overheard 2 aliens talking nearby. "If their civilians can survive those conditions," one whispered, "imagine what their soldiers must be like." Alan frowned as he walked away. He had come seeking friendship, but it seemed humans had accidentally earned fear instead. The road ahead would be harder than anyone on Earth had expected. In his quarters that night, Alan composed his report to Earth. How could he explain that what humans considered normal, the rest of the galaxy considered terrifying? He stared out at the stars, wondering what this would mean for humanity's future among them. He finally wrote, "They called Earth a death world. I told them, we're still here, but I'm not sure they found that reassuring." 6 months after Captain Alan Brooks's meeting with the Galactic Council, Lieutenant Kate Murphy stood at attention in New York Central Park. The summer sun beat down on her dark blue uniform as she waited for the alien delegation to arrive. As head of security for this historic visit, Kate had spent weeks preparing for every possible emergency. "Lieutenant, they're landing now," said Officer Sam Young through her earpiece. Kate nodded and straightened her shoulders. This would be the first alien delegation to visit Earth. After months of tense negotiations, 5 representatives from different species had finally agreed to come. Their visit would determine humanity's future place in the galactic community. The sleek silver ship descended slowly, hovering above the large clearing before settling onto the grass with barely a sound. Kate motioned to her team to hold their positions. The ship was smaller than she had expected. About the size of a city bus, a door slid open on the side of the ship, extending into a ramp. There was a long pause before the first visitor appeared. Ambassador Zarax emerged wearing what looked like a full-body spacesuit. Her form was humanoid, but taller and thinner than any human. The suit was clear in places, revealing blue-green skin underneath. 4 other aliens followed, each in their own environmental suits. They moved cautiously down the ramp, their steps awkward as if the gravity was pulling them down too hard. Kate stepped forward with a practiced smile. "Welcome to Earth. I'm Lieutenant Kate Murphy, head of security for your visit." Ambassador Zirax's helmet translated her words into English, her voice sounding mechanical through the speakers. "Thank you for receiving us, Lieutenant. The atmospheric pressure is uncomfortable. How do you tolerate it?" Kate maintained her smile. "It's what we're built for, Ambassador." The aliens looked around cautiously. One of them, a short round being with multiple eyes visible through his helmet, was scanning the park with a handheld device. "So much plant life," he commented. "And each one producing oxygen constantly. The reactive gas levels here are extraordinary." "We call it fresh air," Kate said, trying to keep her tone light. "The park is one of our city's green spaces. People come here to relax." "Fascinating," said another delegate who resembled a tall insect. "Your species seeks out these oxygen-producing organisms for pleasure?" "Yes," Kate answered. "We find nature calming." She led the delegation through the park, pointing out features of interest. The aliens moved slowly, constantly monitoring their suits and scanning their surroundings. They seemed especially interested in the children playing nearby. "The small humans," Ambassador Zirax said. "They are running and falling on the hard ground. Do they not injure themselves?" "Kids are pretty resilient," Kate explained. "Minor bumps and scrapes are part of growing up." The insect-like delegate made a clicking sound. "Remarkable pain tolerance." The tour continued through the park. Kate noticed dark clouds gathering in the distance, but hoped the rain would hold. Off until they reached the indoor portion of the visit. No such luck. Within minutes, the summer sky darkened completely. "We should hurry," Kate suggested. "It looks like rain is coming." "Rain?" asked the smallest delegate, who floated in what appeared to be a personal hovering tank filled with greenish liquid. Before Kate could answer, the first drops fell. Within seconds, it had become a proper summer downpour. The delegates froze in place. "These water droplets contain mild electrical charges," screamed one delegate, his environmental suit displaying warning lights. "This would kill most sentient beings." "It's just a thunderstorm," Kate said calmly, though she was now getting soaked. "They happen regularly here. The lightning usually strikes tall objects, not people. Please follow me to shelter." She led the panicking delegation to a nearby pavilion. The aliens huddled together, their suits running what appeared to be diagnostic checks. "You live with this?" Ambassador Zirax asked, her voice conveying genuine shock even through the mechanical translation. "Water falling from the sky, charged with electricity?" "It's normal for us," Kate said with a shrug. "The plants need it to grow." That evening, Kate escorted the delegation to a formal dinner at the United Nations building. The human representatives had gone to great lengths to make their guests comfortable, including providing special airlock chambers where the aliens could safely remove their suits to eat their own food. Kate stood guard near the human dining area, watching as the alien delegates observed the humans eating through a clear barrier. "Your species willingly ingests capsaicin compounds for pleasure?" Ambassador Zirax asked, watching a diplomat enjoy a spicy curry dish. "Some humans compete to see who can tolerate the spiciest foods," Kate explained. "And that brown liquid?" The ambassador pointed to another diplomat's cup. "Coffee. It contains caffeine." A neurotoxin," whispered another delegate, the one with multiple eyes. "They drink neurotoxins for energy." Kate tried not to smile at their reactions. What seemed ordinary to her was apparently horrifying to them. The rest of the week continued in similar fashion. The aliens were shocked by the variety of climates and conditions humans lived in. They were terrified by the ocean. "You let your children play in that chemical soup?" Baffled by human sports, deliberate physical contact as recreation, and deeply concerned about human medicine, "You introduce weakened pathogens into your bodies willingly?" On the final day of their visit, Kate escorted the delegation back to their ship. The aliens seemed eager to leave. "Thank you for your hospitality," Lieutenant Ambassador Zerak said formally. "Your world is educational. Will you be making a positive report to the Council?" Kate asked hopefully. The ambassador hesitated. "We will report truthfully. Earth is even more hazardous than previously classified. Yet humans not only survive here but seem to thrive. It is concerning." As the ship took off, Kate's commander, Major Paul Harris, joined her. "How do you think it went?" he asked quietly. Kate watched the ship disappear into the clouds. "They're afraid of us, sir. Not because of anything we did, but because of what we are." "That could be dangerous," the major noted. "Yes, sir. I think they expected frail creatures who had somehow survived a harsh world. Instead, they found humans, who find their harsh world completely normal." Kate frowned. "They see us as potential threats simply because we can live here." Over the next few weeks, reports from Earth's small embassy on the Galactic Council station confirmed Kate's fears. The delegation's report had described Earth as even more hazardous than previously classified and humans as alarmingly adapted to extreme conditions. Diplomatic relations cooled considerably. In private meetings across the galaxy, military leaders began discussing contingency plans for dealing with the Death Worlders, who could endure conditions that would kill most other sentient species. Kate found herself transferred to Earth's growing defense force. As she looked over the new security protocols, she couldn't help but wonder if humanity's first steps into the galactic community would also lead to their first interstellar conflict. "All because we find Earth perfectly normal," she muttered to herself. "All because we're still here." 2 years after the alien delegation's visit to Earth, Commander Greg Powell stood in his office aboard the space station. Defender 1. Earth had built the station in orbit as both a diplomatic outpost and a military checkpoint. Through the large window, Greg could see the blue and green planet below. His home, the world that the rest of the galaxy called a death trap. A soft beep from his computer interrupted his thoughts. "Commander, the Galactic Council is requesting the promised communication," said his assistant's voice. Greg straightened his uniform and moved to the conference room. "Put them through on the main screen." The wall-sized screen flickered to life, showing 7 alien faces. The council elders looked as serious as they had in all previous meetings. The tallest one, with almost transparent blue skin, spoke first. "Commander Powell, thank you for accepting this call." Greg nodded politely. "Of course, Elder Vila. Earth remains committed to peaceful relations." The elder with scales made a dismissive gesture. "Yet you continue to build military vessels." "Defensive measures only," Greg replied calmly. "Standard procedure for any sovereign world." "There is nothing standard about Earth or its people," said another elder, the one who resembled an octopus in a special suit. "Which brings us to the purpose of this meeting." Elder Vila leaned forward slightly. "Over the past 2 years, we have observed human activities with growing concern. Your natural adaptations make you potentially dangerous to other species." Greg kept his face neutral despite his rising frustration. "They have been over this many times? Dangerous how?" "We have followed all council regulations. We have limited our expansion to our own solar system. We have shared our scientific discoveries. We have engaged in fair trade." "It is not what you have done," Elder Vila explained. "It is what you are capable of doing." Another elder, one with crystalline features that sparkled in the light, spoke up. "Your tolerance for pain, radiation, atmospheric variations, and toxic substances exceeds all safety parameters established for interspecies contact." Greg remained silent, letting them continue. He had been warned this meeting might be different from previous ones. "Furthermore," the scaled elder added, "your species exhibits concerning behavioral patterns. Your history is filled with warfare. You practice simulated combat as entertainment. Your young engage in recreational activities that would kill members of other species. What exactly are you suggesting?" Greg finally asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. Elder Vila's large eyes blinked slowly. "The council has reached a decision. For the safety and stability of the galactic community, humanity must accept certain restrictions. The crystalline elder raised a hand, and a document appeared on a smaller screen to Greg's right. These terms are non-negotiable. Greg scanned the document quickly, his heart sinking. The demands were worse than he had feared. Humans would be restricted from expanding beyond Mars. They would need to submit to genetic modifications to reduce their dangerous capabilities. They would allow permanent oversight from council representatives on Earth. This is unacceptable, Greg said firmly. These terms would effectively make humanity a servant species. They would make you safe, corrected the scaled elder. Greg shook his head. We cannot accept these terms. Humanity has a right to exist as we are. The council members exchanged glances. Elder Vila sighed, a strange whistling sound through her breathing apparatus. Then we have no choice but to quarantine your solar system, she said. For the safety of all? Quarantine? Greg repeated. You mean blockade? That's an act of war. Call it what you will, the octopus elder replied. Council ships are already moving into position. No human vessel will be permitted to leave your solar system until you accept our terms. As the transmission ended, the door to the conference room slid open. Lisa Diaz, Greg's second-in-command, entered with a worried expression. You heard? Greg asked. Lisa nodded. Our long-range sensors just picked it up? A fleet is assembling near Jupiter's orbit. Council ships, Greg's jaw tightened. They never intended to negotiate. They were just keeping me distracted while they moved their forces into position. He turned back to the window, looking down at Earth. Alert Earth Defense Command. All ships to battle stations. Within hours, the situation had escalated beyond anything humanity had prepared for. The Council fleet was massive, with over 300 ships of various sizes. Earth's Space Force had barely 50 vessels, most of them small and lightly armed. In the command center of Defender 1, Greg studied the tactical display with his senior officers. They're spreading out to form a blockade line between Mars and Jupiter, said Captain Joel Quinn, head of tactical operations. Classic containment formation. At least they're not attacking yet, Lisa noted. They don't want to destroy us, Greg said grimly. They want to control us. Make us less human, the communication system chimed again. This time it was a direct call from Earth, President Rebecca. Foster's face appeared on the screen, looking tired but determined. Commander Powell, I've received the Council's ultimatum. What's your assessment of our situation? Greg straightened. Militarily, we're outnumbered and outgunned. Their technology is more advanced, but they're clearly trying to avoid direct conflict if possible. Options? The President asked simply. We could try to negotiate better terms, Lisa suggested. Greg shook his head. They've made it clear the terms are non-negotiable. They want us to change who we are fundamentally, because we evolved on a world they can't survive on, the President said with a hint of disbelief, because we can endure conditions they find lethal. Yes, Madam President, they fear what they don't understand. President Foster was quiet for a moment. The United Earth government will not submit to genetic modification or permanent alien oversight. Nor will we accept being prisoners in our own solar system. She looked directly at Greg. Commander Powell, you are authorized to take all necessary actions to break this blockade. Show them that calling Earth a death world was their first mistake. Underestimating its people was their second? After the call ended, Greg turned to his officers. You heard the President. We're going to show the Council why Deathworlders make bad enemies. Captain Quinn looked skeptical. Sir, their ships outclass ours in every category. Greg smiled slightly, except one. Their ships are designed for beings who can't handle high-G maneuvers, radiation, or extreme temperature changes. Ours are designed for humans. He pointed to the tactical display. And humans are very good at surviving against the odds. As the officers left to prepare, Lisa stayed behind. Do you think we can win this, sir? Greg looked back at the blue planet below. I don't know. But I do know this we're still here after thousands of years on a planet that should have killed us. We didn't survive all that just to surrender to aliens who are afraid of rain. The first interstellar war in human history was about to begin. The Deathworlders were going to fight back. The red dust of Mars swirled around Colonel Frank Carter as he led his troops to their defensive positions. 1 month into the war with the Galactic Council, and the fighting had reached the Red Planet. The Council forces had breached Earth's outer defenses and landed troops on the Mars colony. Their goal was clear: take control of humanity's outposts one by one until Earth itself was surrounded. Frank crouched behind a broken wall and raised his binoculars. In the distance, he could see the alien landing craft. They were large and beetle-like, their metal shells gleaming in the weak Martian sunlight. "All units report," Frank said into his communication device. One by one, his team leaders checked in. 500 human soldiers against an estimated 2,000 aliens. The odds weren't good, but humans were used to beating the odds. "Sir, they're deploying their atmospheric modifiers," reported Lieutenant Erica Jones, his intelligence officer. "Sensors show they're dropping the temperature and reducing oxygen levels." Frank nodded grimly. This was a standard council tactic. They changed the battlefield environment to conditions that would weaken or kill most species. They expected humans to surrender once their air became thin and the temperature dropped below freezing. "They think this will stop us?" Frank said, his breath now visible in the rapidly cooling air. "My grandmother runs marathons in colder weather than this." His soldiers laughed nervously. The truth was, the conditions were becoming difficult. The Martian environment was already harsh. Now it was becoming truly dangerous, but Frank had prepared for this. "Activate your thermal gear," he ordered, "and switch to supplemental oxygen. Remember your training. We can function in these conditions." They don't expect that. The human soldiers activated the thin heating layers in their combat suits and adjusted their breathing apparatus. It wasn't comfortable, but they could fight. They would fight. The alien forces advanced in tight formation, clearly confident in their strategy. Their own environmental suits were bulky, designed to protect them from what they considered Mars's already lethal conditions. They moved slowly, carefully, not expecting serious resistance. "Hold fire until they reach the first marker," Frank ordered. "Let them think their plan is working." The Council forces moved closer, passing the remains of the research buildings on the colony's edge. Still, the humans waited, hidden among the ruins and natural rock formations of the Martian landscape. "Now," Frank shouted when the aliens reached the designated position. 500 human soldiers opened fire simultaneously. The aliens were caught completely by surprise. They had expected the humans to be incapacitated by the cold and thin air. Instead, they faced a coordinated attack from all sides. Chaos erupted among the alien ranks. Their return fire was disorganized. Their movements were slowed by their bulky suits and the unfamiliar gravity. The battle raged for hours, but the humans held their ground despite being outnumbered. As night fell on Mars, bringing even more deadly cold, Frank received an unexpected communication from orbit. "Colonel Carter, this is Dr. Olivia Wade on the research vessel Horizon. I've been analyzing the alien biodata. I think I've found something that could help." Frank ducked as an energy blast hit nearby. "I'm a little busy right now, Doctor." "The aliens' environmental suits have a weakness," Olivia continued urgently. "Their biology is so different from ours that what we consider minor irritants are devastating to them." Frank's interest was piqued despite the battle raging around him. "What kind of irritants?" "Common Earth bacteria and viruses," Olivia explained. "They're harmless to us, but the aliens have no immunity. Their filtration systems are designed for their own world's pathogens, not ours." A plan began to form in Frank's mind. "Can you send me the details? And contact Admiral Chun with this information immediately." While the battle for Mars continued, Admiral Diane Chun received Dr. Wade's findings aboard the flagship Defiance in Earth orbit. The space battle had been going poorly for humanity. The Council ships were faster and more heavily armed than Earth's vessels. "Their ships have the same weakness as their suits," Olivia explained through the video link. "They're sealed environments, but they're not designed to filter Earth-based microorganisms." Admiral Chun studied the data carefully. "So what you're suggesting is ... Biological warfare, Olivia said bluntly. Not deadly pathogens, just common microbes that would make their life support systems fail. To us, these are just everyday inconveniences. Shun's eyes widened as she understood, like the common cold. Exactly. Something we barely noticed could completely disable their ships. Within hours, Earth scientists had prepared what they called Operation Common Cold, modified but harmless to humans. Airborne particles were loaded into specialized missiles. The human fleet launched a seemingly desperate attack on the Council blockade. The alien ships easily avoided the small, fast missiles, not realizing these weren't conventional weapons. The missiles detonated near the Council vessels, releasing clouds of microscopic particles that were drawn into the ship's air circulation systems. At first, nothing happened. The Council forces continued their overwhelming assault, pushing the human ships back toward Earth. Admiral Chun began to wonder if Dr. Wade's theory had been wrong. Then, one by one, the alien ships began to drift out of formation. Communication. Chatter revealed confusion and distress. Systems were failing. Crews were becoming ill. The carefully controlled environments inside their vessels were being disrupted by organisms so common on Earth that humans lived with them daily. "It's working," Chun whispered in disbelief as she watched the tactical display. The mighty Council fleet was falling into disarray. Back on Mars, Frank's forces had received similar biological countermeasures. When deployed near alien positions, the results were dramatic. The Council troops began retreating in panic as their life support systems became contaminated with Earth microbes. "They didn't expect us to weaponize our natural environment," Olivia noted during an emergency briefing with Earth's military leaders. "To us, these are just everyday inconveniences." The tide of the war began to turn. Humanity's smaller but more maneuverable ships executed maneuvers under crushing forces that would kill most aliens, diving into radiation belts that the Council ships couldn't follow, and using Earth's variable magnetic field to mask their signatures. The Council forces retreated from Mars, stunned by the effectiveness of such simple countermeasures. Their reports back to the Galactic Council were filled with disbelief. The Deathworlders had turned the very qualities of their lethal home planet into weapons. 2 months after the battle for Mars, Frank stood in the colony's central dome, which was being rebuilt after the fighting. Dr. Olivia Wade had come to the planet to study the effects of their biological countermeasures. "The Council underestimated us," Frank said as they looked out at the red landscape. "They thought because their technology was better, they would win." Olivia nodded. "They failed to understand that humans don't just survive on Earth, we're shaped by it. Everything that makes our planet deadly to them makes us stronger." Frank watched as his soldiers helped rebuild the colony, working efficiently despite the harsh conditions. "Do you think they'll come back?" "They'll have to adapt first," Olivia replied. "Create better protections against our biology, our gravity, our radiation tolerance." She smiled slightly. "It might take them a while?" "Good," Frank said firmly. "That gives us time to prepare. Next time, they'll know what they're really facing when they challenge the people of a death world." Word spread throughout the galaxy. The Deathworlders had repelled the mighty Council fleet using nothing more than the natural advantages their harsh planet had given them. For the first time, the Council military experienced something unfamiliar: doubt. 5 years after the war began, John Martinez stood once again before the Galactic Council. The Great Chamber was different now. Many seats remained empty. Some species had withdrawn from the Council after their defeats by human forces. Others were simply absent, perhaps too ashamed to face the representatives of the Death World. John wore a simple dark suit rather than a military uniform. As Earth's new ambassador, he wanted to project peace, not power. But everyone in the chamber knew what humans were capable of now. The war had proven that. "The peace treaty acknowledges humanity's right to exist unmodified," John stated, his voice calm but firm. "Our expansion rights within our local cluster are recognized, and the Death World classification of Earth will remain, not as a warning, but as a recognition of our homeworld's unique properties." The Council elder with the transparent blue skin, Vila, looked much older than when Captain Brooks had first stood in this chamber. She nodded slowly. We underestimated your species, Ambassador Martinez, a costly mistake. Not just our physical resilience, John added, but our adaptability, our creativity under pressure. These are the true gifts of evolving on a world that constantly tried to kill us. The war had been brutal but relatively short. After the initial Council forces were defeated, humanity had pushed outward from their solar system with surprising speed. The Battle of Europa had been the turning point. When human ships captured 3 Council dreadnoughts intact, the balance of technology had shifted dramatically. With access to advanced alien technology, humans had quickly adapted it to their own purposes. New human ships incorporated the best of both worlds, Council tech designed to work with human biology, not against it. The Council had never faced a species that could so quickly understand and improve upon their technology. The treaty also includes provisions for technological exchange and medical cooperation, John continued. We believe there is much our species can learn from each other. The reptilian elder made a hissing sound that might have been a laugh. After all this, you still wish to cooperate with us? We tried to change your very nature. John smiled slightly. Adaptation is part of that nature. We don't hold grudges when there's more to gain from friendship. As the formal meeting concluded, Elder Vila asked to speak with John privately. They moved to a small chamber off the main hall. There is a question that has been troubling the Council, she said when they were alone. Your species could have pushed further after the Battle of Europa. You had military advantage. Why agree to peace when victory was within your grasp? John considered his answer carefully. Because survival isn't just about being the strongest or most resilient. It's about knowing when to fight and when to cooperate. Earth taught us that too. Vila's large eyes blinked slowly. I do not understand. On Earth, species that only know how to fight eventually die out, John explained. The most successful organisms are those that find balance between competition and cooperation, between strength and restraint. Yet your history is filled with wars, Vila noted. Yes, and we learn from them. Every conflict taught us that true victory comes not from destroying your enemy, but from creating a better peace afterward. John paused. We didn't want to rule the galaxy, we just wanted our place in it. As he walked from the chamber, a young aide rushed up to him with a message pad. John read it and laughed softly. What is it, sir? The aide asked. The Council just received our invitation to the Interspecies Olympic Games we're hosting next year, John replied. They've tentatively agreed to send representatives, though they're requesting modified events suitable for their physiologies. Will we accommodate them? John nodded. Of course. They're beginning to understand now. We never wanted to prove our superiority, just our right to exist as we are. 6 months later, John stood on the observation deck of the new Human Council. Joint Research Station orbiting Earth. Beside him stood Dr. Olivia Wade, whose discovery of the aliens' biological vulnerabilities had helped win the war. Now she was leading efforts to help Council species visit Earth safely. The environmental suits are working perfectly, she reported. The Council scientists can now spend up to 6 hours on the surface without ill effects. John watched through the window as a shuttle departed for Earth. It carried alien researchers who would study Earth's ecosystems firsthand. What are they most interested in seeing? He asked. Rainforests, Olivia replied with a smile. They can't believe the biodiversity. All those species coexisting in what they consider extreme conditions. Any progress on the gravity issue? Olivia nodded. The new exoskeletal supports help them move almost normally in Earth's gravity. Some of the younger aliens are even enjoying it. Apparently, bouncing in high gravity is becoming something of a sport among them. John smiled at the thought. From fear to fascination in just a few years? That's often how it works, Olivia noted. What terrifies us at first can become wondrous once we understand it. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Captain Alan Brooks, the man who had first stood before the Council years ago. Though retired from active service, he now served as an advisor on interspecies relations. Ambassador, Doctor. He greeted them with a nod. I just received word from the Council Homeworlds. Their education systems are being updated. Earth is no longer being taught as a cautionary tale of a planet too hostile for intelligent life. What are they teaching instead? John asked. That diversity of environments leads to diversity of life and thought, Alan replied. They're using Earth as an example of how extreme conditions can produce remarkable adaptations. And what about humans? Olivia asked. Alan smiled. We're still classified as Deathworlders, but now it's said with respect rather than fear. As they looked down at the blue planet below, a message came through from one of the alien research teams on the surface. They had been caught in an unexpected rainstorm, once a cause of panic, now merely an inconvenience with their improved suits. They're actually enjoying it, Olivia said with surprise as she read the message. They say the sensation of water falling from the sky is exhilarating once you know you're safe. John thought about how far they had come, from being feared and nearly destroyed to teaching alien children to dance in the rain. All because humans had refused to be anything other than what they were, the children of a world that had shaped them through challenge and hardship. He glanced at Alan, who had represented humanity when they first stepped onto the galactic stage. What you told the council when they called Earth a death world? Alan nodded, his weathered face breaking into a smile. I said, we're still here, and now they understand what that really means, John said softly. Not just that we survived, but how we survived. By adapting, by cooperating, by turning challenges into strengths. He looked back at the planet that had forged humanity, the world that other species had called deadly. We're still here, he repeated. And now, so are they, alongside us? That's the point they finally understood.